Hey guys, it's Pikachu! Thanks so much for coming back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a Skud montage followed by an in-depth Skud guide that covers just about everything you need to know about Skud. And keep in mind that Skud is one of the most broken heroes in this patch right now.
I know what it's like to lose. Feel so desperately that you're right, yet to fail nonetheless. I ask you, to what end? Dread it, run from it, destiny arrives all the same. And now it's here. Or should I say, I am.
Run.
Well guys, I hope you enjoyed the intro and the montage. I added timestamps in this video so you guys can skip to the parts that you're interested in and also rewind to parts that you want to rewatch. This reworked and buffed Skud is literally Thanos with all of the Infinity Stones, and I'm not even exaggerating. I wanted to try my best this time to take my hero guides to the next level so every player can master this hero and use him to climb ranks. This is the perfect chance because unlike other OP heroes such as Thorn, where you need to have lots of game knowledge to make sure you don't die, Skud has so much HP and damage combined in one that you can literally just face tank without a care in the world for what those annoying ADCs and mages do. This is a hero that is absolutely perfect to pick to get yourself from veteran to master, especially in the lower elos where the players will have no idea how to counter the atrocity of Skud's health bar. The good news is, Skud is staying strong for a very long time, so happy terrorizing and ruining the hearts of every mage player you encounter, and let's get to the guide. Skud has two parts to his passive. The first part is that Skud's normal attacks deal additional damage based on max HP and magic damage to enemies with max HP lower than him, which after he completes Leviathan is almost all Squisher heroes due to the second part of his passive, which is that Skud's max HP is increased by 6% initially and then 1% per level for a total of 20% at level 15. Because this is percentage based, Skud's max HP scaling is directly affected by equipment and Arcana. This passive is what turns Skud into an AP based tank similar to Arum, which directly influences his build and Arcana choices. Now, we're going to go over Skud's S2 first and then his S1 to understand his abilities more clearly. Skud's S2 grants him a movement speed boost that starts slow but becomes faster for 5 seconds. Then, during this 5-second interval, you are granted an enhanced auto attack that can only be triggered after a certain amount of time, as displayed by the bar you see on top of Skud. This enhanced normal attack scales with 7% of max HP and 100% of AP and deals magic damage that also reduces the enemy's movement speed by 50% for 2 seconds upon a hit. If you successfully hit something, whether it's a monster or a hero, you will get refunded CD for 40% plus 4% per ability level. Skud's S1 is a short-range dash that grants him an additional 20% in bonus attack speed, which increases by 4% per ability level if he hits an enemy hero while boosting his S2 enhanced auto attack damage by 50% for 5 seconds. Basically, you want to hit your S1 on an enemy before you land your S2 enhanced auto attack to maximize damage, and since Skud's S2 is where most of his damage lies, it's important to prioritize hitting Skud's S1 whenever possible. Skud's ultimate is basically an area knockback around Skud. The key here is to note that it doesn't do much damage like the previous Skud, but it grants immunity to control effects, which is big, and the passive effect is also huge. The passive is that Skud can heal 6% plus 3% per ability level of max HP from minions and monsters by killing them, which gives him insane sustain throughout the game with no need for any other lifesteal effect. A big misconception is that anti-heal is effective, particularly against Skud, which is a lack of understanding of where Skud's regen is coming from. Now, let's get into how to use these abilities and Skud's combo. Skud really only has 2 combos: S2, S1, Ultimate when it's available, and S2, Ultimate, and when it's available, then S1. Let's go over the first combo. The first is the standard combo for doing damage in a front-to-back scenario. For the first combo, you charge up your S2 beforehand while gaining movement speed to chase down your target, and then use your S1 to close a bit of distance. Try to hit your opponent with it if possible. Then hit your S2 to land the slow, and then use your ultimate to stun the target while auto-attacking them and waiting for your S2 to come back off of cooldown. Oftentimes, you'll just use your ultimate not to hit anyone in particular, but to immune the control effects while tanking to run away, or dodge key abilities while chasing, such as a Diao Chan freeze. The second combo is used more frequently when tower diving, flanking from behind, or immuning key control effects while charging. You charge up your S2 for your movement speed boost, get behind the enemies, and charge your ultimate to knock them back towards your team or out of the turret and stun them. Then, you can use your S1 and S2 in quick successions to maximize damage, or to use your S2 and save your S1 to dash out of the turret range or to chase the enemies. What's most important with Skud's abilities is working on positioning and timing, because hitting your combos is like a mind game. Opponents should know how to run away from Skud when he's getting close to avoid your S2. So, it's your job to use the bushes, your own low health as bait, choke points, flanking, or hitting the enemy tanks and then suddenly turning your attention by dashing to surprise the enemy backline. You should accomplish these maneuvers by practicing when you should activate your S2 or when to hold it or use it on minions to refund the cooldown before resuming a chase. Don't forget to master using your ultimate as both a CC immunity tool and a stun even if you're in front of the enemy. Now let's talk about Skud's build and enchantment. Unlike ADCs, a hero like Skud is very versatile when it comes to which items to build, although some items are clearly better than others. So to properly address that, I created a recommended standard jungle build, but as you can see, in the middle I have a chart that specifically details the possible items to build, when to make substitutions, and their overall rank in terms of effectiveness based on their tier. Let's get started with the recommended build. Skud is considerably better and more oppressive as a jungler. So, the recommended way to play Skud is in the jungle. And his build in the jungle is Leviathan first, Gilded Greaves, Soaring Aura, Rock Shield, Shield of the Lost, and lastly, Medallion of Troy. However, before we continue, I want to bring up some facts about Skud that are considered key basics to evaluating any Skud build, so that when there's discussion on how you should build Skud, it should start by addressing these basics first, instead of using terminology such as, my rank is higher than yours, or obviously because of the region factor, or because of this armor factor, Skud should always build this. These basics are firstly, that Skud's auto attacks increase by 2% of his max HP and 25% of his AP, and Skud's S2 increases at 100% of his AP and 7% of his max HP. Secondly, Skud's passive gives him max HP increase of up to 20% at level 15. Think of Skud like this. His max HP is like a scaling effect that increases his damage as his levels and items increase, while AP boosts his damage immediately. This is also why Skud always builds one AP item early while he is jungling, because it grants him the immediate power boost necessary to skirmish with real burst threat while maintaining his HP scaling. The best choice available is Soaring Aura. Then, Skud rushes Rock Shield. And note that Skud is probably one of the heroes that synergizes best with Rock Shield in the entire game due to the nature of his damage coming in timed bursts. We follow this with the standard recommendation of Shield of Lost against DPS heroes such as Laville or Hayate. But if the heroes are more burst-oriented such as Violet, you can substitute Odin's Will, Mail of Pain, or Amulet of Longevity. Lastly, we finish with the Medallion of Troy, and you can make substitutions such as Amulet of Longevity if the enemy AP threats are weak, or you can take Holy of Holies if your team's backline is weak and you need to take matters into your own hands. Personally, I value Medallion of Troy over Gaia Standard quite a bit, especially with the upcoming Medallion buff, because Medallion gives a considerable amount more magic damage protection, and also Gaia Standard's passive is easily interrupted by anti-heal items, making the disparity of effectiveness even greater. Amulet of Longevity is a situational item because you have so much healing already in your ultimate passive. Against double ADCs, a good potential substitution is to build Leviathan plus another item and then your AP item so that you can have high enough survivability for teamfights. Don't forget, if the enemy has more than one region threat, Tome of the Reaper is also a great buy. These are all listed in the chart in the screenshot, and how you interpret the chart is that the items are color-coded by its effectiveness. And the items are listed as a direct substitution in place of the standard build based on a specific situation. For example, if you look at the potential substitution for double AP enemies, you are directly replacing Soaring Aura with Frosty's Revenge, and instead of building Rock Shield 4th, building an early Medallion and then Rock Shield. Part of mastering Skud is to identify these situations and being able to adjust your build properly on the fly depending on your situation. Explosive Shield is just overwhelmingly the best choice for your enchantment page because the health regen and brief CC immunity are perfect for Skud's kit. And there's no other option that comes close to its effectiveness given how Skud currently is. As for Arcana, we have an attack speed based AP page, which is the best option in terms of gold efficiency and boosting Skud's weakest part of the game, the early game. Now, for Skud in the Slayer lane, the standard build would be Mantle of Ra, Gilded Greaves, Soaring Aura, and the Shield of Lost interchangeably, Rock Shield, and lastly, Medallion of Troy. The biggest differences you see here is that since Skud fails to benefit from the HP boost from Leviathan and his minion enchantment in the early game, he's going to feel a lot squishier than in the jungle initially. So oftentimes you want to build double armor and then your AP item. Because Rock Shield is directly linked to your HP amount, you want to wait until later in the game to build it as the 5th item. The chart for jungle is also applicable to DS Skud, and when you master how to build jungle Skud situationally, the adjustments are relatively the same for the Slayer lane. Some items become more powerful with the DS Skud, such as Amulet of Longevity, as he has less chances to regen off of minions and more responsibility to be roaming and grouping for teamfights. Similarly, some items become unviable, like Blade of Eternity and Frost Cape, due to lack of health bonus and protection. I recommend the same Arcana page usually, and you can change the page to be more tank oriented by replacing the purple Arcanas with Undying, for example, if you're really worried about your matchup. For the enchantment page, you can choose between using Devil's Awakening for a more lane-oriented 1v1 approach, or choosing a team-oriented tank and teamfight-oriented approach with Explosive Shield, since both options are strong choices. Now let's talk a little bit about Skud's threats and synergies. Because Skud has a unique playstyle, and there have been many changes coming in the new patch for a bunch of heroes, I decided to adjust how I usually cover synergies and threats. Instead of using specific heroes, I wanted to discuss traits of heroes that Skud would be weak against or strong alongside of, and then give examples. That way, you guys can also add in your own heroes based on your own judgment into these main categories. Skud's biggest weakness in the entire game is facing attack speed ADCs with high mobility. In the current meta, Elandor, or as some of you pronounce it, Elandor, is the highest threat, followed by Hayate, who prevents Skud from chasing efficiently with his shurikens and insane true damage, and finally, lesser threats such as Lindis with her mobility around bushes, instant vision, and dash. Elandor is what you can even consider a hard counter to Skud because his hybrid damage and mobility using butterflies make it almost impossible for Skud to get off his abilities or to face tank without consequences in the early to mid game. And on another unfortunate but necessary note, a Hayate with the popular map hack is an even bigger nightmare, and there's absolutely no counterplay besides hoping your team can kill Hayate for you if the Hayate happens to be hacking. So, if you start seeing strange behaviors or instant reactions, don't waste your health or time to try to go for a hacking Hayate. On the bright side, Skud is indeed Thanos when it comes to literally every other ADC and almost all mages. Next, Skud has also unfavorable matchups against attack speed warriors with regen, particularly in the early game. The only big threat in this category is Lubu, where if Skud carelessly uses his S1 and S2, Skud can get caught out and get beaten down quite easily. Besides Lubu, we have smaller threats that Skud can't win a 1v1 against, but has opportunities to run if he finds himself in trouble. Since Scud's damage is burst oriented, DPS regen heroes such as Kilgroth, Dextra, and even Tachi or Elaine may outlast and outdamage Skud quite handily in a 1v1 fight, but they aren't huge threats to Skud because Skud can just run away and choose not to int. The best type of heroes to pair with Skud are the ones that enable his main strategy, which is a dive and siege team comp with an ADC-centric late game. When it comes to dive heroes, the chart shows a list of great meta heroes such as Tara, Malak, and Wonder Woman. Tara and Skud turns opponent towers into a false sense of security as they form an unkillable duo running down enemies under their own towers. During this engage, the Malak can then initiate and cut off escape routes and slows the enemies. Now, Roxy and Skud have some lesser known synergies, such as Roxy's S2 prevents enemies from chasing back once Skud and Roxy finish diving the backline. Additionally, one champion in particular that has an insane amount of synergy with Skud, and it's honestly so broken in rank when executed properly that it pains me to say it, but it's a good cooldown Rui. I'm planning on making a video about this someday, but the gist is that while Skud is mindlessly running down the backline, which usually results in a kill, and then Rui is able to ultimate and get Skud out over and over. It's foolproof because Skud is so tanky right now that if he activates Rock Shield and teleports, you can never catch him, while he can chase you whenever he wants like a scary movie villain guy. Finally, picking Skud inherently means accepting the potential that your ADC needs to carry you late game, because no matter how good you play, Skud becomes more of a tanky finisher in the late game as he gets outscaled from a damage perspective. Therefore, ADCs with DPS and scaling are the most desirable, such as Laville and Kafani instead of Elsu or Valheim. As the last and new section of my guides, I wanted to give a rundown on how to play the hero in different parts of the game. For the gameplay, I mainly wanted to address how to play Skud jungle, while providing brief notes for Skud in the DS lane to keep things more brief, because if you can play Skud in the jungle, you can adjust to play Skud in the DS lane naturally as well. First off, let's talk about Skud in the early game. Early game typically means levels 1 to 7. Scud's early game is weaker than many top junglers, including Aoi, Lubu, and Elandor. This is because Skud not only has a slower initial clear speed until he finishes Leviathan, but also his damage isn't enough to burst down squishies until he completes Soaring Aura. For jungling, in the early game, the usual way Skud can get kills is by having a number advantage and by flanking, oftentimes using his ultimate to stun enemies and knock them back, thus relying on one of the side laners to gain a laning advantage rather than creating the advantage himself completely. Skud has to be careful not to overestimate his abilities and play the early game with a sense of caution instead of aggression. In the lane, Skud has very low kill potential against many top meta DS laners, which makes the objective for DS Skud to focus on not dying and roaming, taking a team-friendly approach similar to Max. In these early levels, look to help secure the Spirit Sentinel, passively clear waves, and roam between top and mid lane. Now let's talk about the mid game, which typically refers to levels 8 to 13. For Skud jungle during the mid game, his true power starts to show as he acquires more infinity gems, items, and his ultimate hits level 2, allowing him to easily regen back to full health with just a few camps. After Soaring Aura, Skud has plenty of room to tank while being able to move to 1v1 all mages and ADCs without high mobility. At this point in the game, it's time to flip the switch from being cautious to being overly aggressive through whenever there's a situation where you can see a lane advantage and an opportunity to gank, prioritize the gank rather than the jungle clear, and don't be afraid of tanking towers. This is key, as Skud's default levels scale much better than other heroes, so you usually want to delay your opponent's items and EXP rather than solo getting EXP by AFK farming like a Sinestria would. When you're nearing level 14, you should be well on your way to completing Rock Shield, and once you do, Skud hits his most powerful point in the game, assuming that the game state is relatively even, so make the most out of this window and be even more aggressive. Laning Skud also gets strong at 3 to 4 items, but not nearly as close to the level of Jungle Skud. Now let's talk about the late game, which typically refers to level 14 and any point beyond that. At lower elos, it's possible to carry games as Skud by single-handedly killing the entire enemy backline, inclusive of the ADC and the mage late game. However, in the Master and Conqueror elo, these players know how to respect the speed, range, and tankiness of Skud and will peel for their carries while the others kite. Because of this, late game Skud's role should be to use his massive amount of HP to focus on zoning the enemy backline by chasing them, creating an unfavorable 4v3 situation for the enemy team or a 4v4 with the enemy team not having their ADC present. This is also the reason why usually your ADC's actions will decide the game, especially in the late game. Outside of teamfights, Skud should actively position himself behind enemy lines to continuously look for picks, as even if Skud gets caught out, it's almost impossible to burst him down when he's full build. Disclaimer: please ignore the last sentence if you feel like the enemies are map hacking. Actively prepare to take a look to steal objectives, as you can solo the Dark Slayer and Dragon comfortably, and your S2 does more damage than Punish to these epic monsters. Use Skud's HP initially to tank the towers and mercilessly dive the enemy team, or stand in front to protect the minion wave as much as possible during these pushes. You can literally tank almost 15 tower shots. After you're able to master Jungle Skud, a couple of games on DS Skud will naturally teach you the limitations of going lane, such as how to play more safe and split push more due to the lack of gold, experience, and reduced damage. Anyways, that was the entire in-depth Skud guide. Guys, thank you so much for watching and sticking around for the entire video. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you found this guide helpful. I really hope you guys spend some time to try to master this hero, because you can do some absolutely ridiculous things with him, as he's absolutely broken in this meta. It's pretty entertaining to watch Skud and also to play Skud, and obviously this hero at the moment is perfectly balanced and not at all similar to Thanos with all the Infinity Stones. Anyways, I hope you guys can make Skud so prevalent that if I meet you guys in game, I rage quit playing my adorable fairy champions. Thank you guys so much for sticking around, and I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you guys next time.